And I was like, oh my goodness. It was exactly like I had pictured it in my meditation.
Well, welcome back. Salty7 here, and we thought it'd be fun to talk about manifesting today. And I'd like Cheryl to kind of start on law of attraction.
Law of attraction. Okay, so if you haven't heard of the law of attraction yet, that is one of the key things that you use to manifest what you want. Now, the law of attraction, you're using it right now in your life, whether or not you know it or not. Because when you basically, the law of attraction states that whatever energies you're sending out is what you are receiving back. So, for example, think about the poor person that is just like, I've been poor my whole life. I'm always going to be poor. I'm just never going to make it. And you think about the rich people that are just like, I can make a bunch of money. I have no problem. And they do. They could go bankrupt. And then next thing you know, they're back to being rich again. You can think of people that are stupid. They're like, oh, I'm just so stupid and I can't learn. It's because they're telling themselves that.
That's what they're focusing their attention on.
They're focusing their attention on it, and so the universe hears that, and they're like, okay, well, you're telling me that's what you want. Here you go.
So is that kind of like we are the creator of our lives, and that can be negative creation or positive creation, right? It's just whatever we're focusing on.
Yeah, it really is. So like the negative creation, and a lot of people that do the work of trying to fix themselves, it's trying to get out of that mindset of negative. And it's like, oh, you could even take, for example, I just can't manifest it. I'm not good enough. Well, you're not going to manifest it because you aren't good enough. You're telling yourself you're not good enough.
Doesn't Dr. Joe talk about that's karma when he's lecturing? And I think it's kind of on this subject.
I guess
it's that wheel of karma where you just keep recycling because you can't get out of that rut, so to speak, or you just keep doing that negative law of attraction.
Yeah, definitely for sure.
and I know I struggle with that too. You know, I mean, I do get stuck in ruts where I'm thinking about something all the time, and it's like, man, am I really manifesting that? So it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to teach that to our kids a little bit too, because my daughter is just like, why is everybody always being so rude to me? And it's like, well, because a lot of times you're rude to them, and so.
Ooh. Talk about mirroring. Remember we were talking about that, where we walk out into our lives and we've got this big smile on our face and we're just like, the world is our oyster, you know, with our attitude. And we started to notice that the people we came into contact with reflected that, right?
Yeah.
But
I noticed that.
If we go all mad and angry, it's like they're mad and angry back to us.
I noticed that. Yeah, I really did notice that, because since we've been doing this work a lot, it's just like, I asked Kyle, I said, is it just me, or are people just getting nicer? It's like I seem to pick the very person at the grocery store that's really nice. Or people are coming up to me that normally don't, like, oh, can I help you with something? And I don't think it's just because other people are just getting friendlier in general. I think it's just us. We're raising our vibration, and they can feel that. You know, you think about when you come in contact with somebody. I mean, you can even think about it. You go into the grocery store, and you can tell the person at the checkout's just kind of, maybe they're on their phone, and then they're all, so you're just kind of like, you can just sense that right away. But it's almost like we come forth, and it's like we're radiating this great energy, and so they're like, oh, wow, breath of fresh air. And so they're kind of that same way, too, so.
Well, let's move to your next topic of the 3 steps, and you said that it's in one of the books you've
Yeah, I mean, there's so many books out there about manifesting. I mean, Dr. Joe has his way of doing it. You can read so many books, but they all kind of come down to the same kind of things. Obviously, the law of attraction. Right. But this book, Ask and It Is Given, right here, I've only gotten not even a fourth way into it, but I'm loving this book already. But they talk about 3 steps, and these 3 steps are pretty much general to everything. You have ask, the answer is given, and then you receive. So let's say, what do we want to manifest? Let's say just that future job, that dream job or something like that. Okay, so you ask for it. When you go in your meditation, you're asking for that manifestation. that manifestation. There you go.
Yeah.
You're picturing that dream job and everything, and then you really need to feel it, and that is also very key. That you need to ask and feel it.
Well, let's pause there, because what does that really mean? And I've heard other people say, and I've been trying to practice this as well. Feel is so simple. It's smelling the air. It's the way you would feel when you put that new suit on, or your uniform, or whatever your clothing would be to go to that job. The smell of the new briefcase, if you have a briefcase for the job. It's just all of the senses. You try to bring all 5 senses together: touch, taste, feel, smell. So I think that's important to really live. And the more, I've heard this said too, the more that you can really feel in all those aspects, the faster it materializes. Tell me about this answer is given. What does that mean?
What are you talking about? The ask and it's given?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this book goes, it's really deep. And like I said, I haven't read the whole thing.
Okay, sorry. Putting you on the spot
I
there.
mean, you're asking me. I'm like, I don't know. But asking it is given. I mean, isn't that a quote from the Bible? Ask and you shall receive. It's the same thing. You ask and you shall receive it. But you have to match the frequency of what you're asking for. So it's kind of like the tuning forks, where you put the 2 tuning forks together, and it's at 528 and 528. You can make this one go dee like that, and then the other one will just start to vibrate. But if this is 529, it's not going to vibrate. So that's the same thing inside of us. We need to match that frequency. It's like, oh, well, how do I do that?
Well, and we always said thoughts are frequencies, right?
They are.
So if you're touching source and you're having all of these thoughts, positive thoughts about the new manifestation, we're using a job for this example, but those are the frequencies going out, and with that thought. So I guess I've always tried to overanalyze this process and make it too complicated, but if you just keep it simple, the thought is the frequency, and you want to match the frequency with the universe. That's really all it takes.
Yeah.
Now, touching source, you mentioned a little while ago, we were talking about Dr. Joe's whiteboard that he does during the 7-day lecture, and how he draws all those squiggly lines, and they're really big squigglies at the bottom, and as you go up, they get smaller and smaller, and by the time you get to the top, it's just a flat line, a straight line.
Yeah, so the bottom part of that is the matter to matter. We're at a lower frequency. And so if you want to manifest that job, you're like, okay, I need to work hard, and I need to, I don't know, prove that I'm good and make that money that you want to make. That's matter to matter. You're thinking how to do it.
Newtonian mind.
Yeah. And so you get into the meditation and you try to raise your frequency, and the closer you can get to source,
or the top of that chart.
That top of the chart, you can get that in an instant. And that's where a lot of people manifest their healing from, is because they so desire it in their heart. And that is the key, is you've got to desire it in your heart. You talk about sending out the frequency and matching it. I think your heart is the magnet that draws that back to you, and you have to truly, truly feel it in your heart.
Let me jump in and say that it's wholeness. You could really, really want to heal, but I know Dr. Joe says this a lot. A lot of people don't receive the healing until they just finally almost give up and say, I just want to be happy. I just want to be whole. I want to be filled with love. And that's when the healing comes.
Well, and that's
because they're touching source.
They are touching source. But what you say is you could touch source and still not manifest what you want. But what you said is just letting go. And that is key right there, is letting go. Because you talk about you ask, the answer is given, and you receive it. And receiving is the hard part, because you have to surrender. You have to stop looking for it. You have to stop being, okay, when's that job coming? How's it going to come? Am I going to get a phone call? Do I have to go and apply for this job right here? 1,000 different jobs and one will come. And from things we've manifested, you don't have to search for it. When you're searching for it, it doesn't come. When you stop searching for it, that's when it comes.
And that's that holy crap moment. You're like,
yeah, it is. Okay, so now I need to tell my blue water story. So that can kind of help a little bit. So Kyle and I had gone to the Cancun event in June, and then the water's so beautiful there, so blue. And so I was telling our kids all about that, and we're like, okay, let's go to Cancun. So later in that year, we brought the kids to Cancun.
Yeah.
And so I was telling all the kids, like, this, you're going to love the water. So beautiful. So we get to this hotel, and the water's almost red and murky, and it's got seaweed and stuff. And Kyle and I were like, oh, let's try to manifest blue water. So we were doing some meditations, and we're like, okay. And then we'd wake up the next morning, we're like, is it blue yet? Yeah.
No,
it wasn't blue yet. And we did that several times. And so one meditation, and I just threw it in a meditation. I didn't meditate just to get blue water. And that's what's cool about it. You don't have to focus your entire meditation on the one thing.
Yeah.
If you desire it that badly, you can get it that quickly. So anyway, I get into my meditation. I'm doing whatever meditation. And at the end, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to try this real quick. And this time, I really got into it. Like Kyle was saying, it's like you really have to imagine everything about it. So I imagined I was in the water. It was so blue out around us, and the water was so clear. I looked down, and there was like fish swimming all around us, and the kids were like, oh, wow, look, and they were giggling and everything like that. So it never happened. We had to go back to the airport, and I'm like, oh, well, it didn't work. Whatever. I just kind of was like, whatever. So then all of a sudden we get to the airport, and our plane's canceled.
Yep.
And so then I was like, oh, cool, this is our opportunity. So I was like, well, I'm going to try to stay in another hotel, away from like this little area where the seaweed is, and we'll get blue water. So we stayed somewhere else. Same thing. It was a little bit better, but still, yeah. And there was still a lot of seaweed. It wasn't that blue water, whatever. So I was like, whatever. It's just enjoy the time here. And we had a couple more days. So then we try to find something to do, and we get tickets to go to Isla Mujeres. And
take the ferry across.
Yeah, we take the ferry across to go to Isla Mujeres. And then we get there, and we get in the water, and I guess I had forgotten about the blue water, because the water was blue there.
Oh, dude, it was magazine.
Oh, my goodness, it was so beautiful. But for some reason, I had forgotten that I tried to manifest it. And so then we all get in the water, and we're splashing around and stuff. All of a sudden, fish start swimming all around us, and we're like, oh, fish. And I was like, oh, my goodness. It was exactly like I had pictured it in my meditation. And I just told Kyle, I was like, oh, I was almost started crying. I was like, this is so cool. It's so amazing. And so then I was like, did our plane really get canceled just so this could happen? And I've told this to several people, and they're like, yeah. And I was like, but there was a fire in the tower at the airport, and I was like, and it delayed all these people, and I was like, did that really happen to all these people just so I could get what I want? And it's hard to believe, but like I said, it was exactly like I pictured it. And so, it's crazy how the universe, to get what you want, things have to happen. That's like the story that Dr. Joe, well, I don't know if Dr. Joe told it or somebody else. Somebody needed, let's say it was $30,000 to pay off all their credit cards. And so they didn't know how they could get it or whatever. All of a sudden, they have like this old barn or something in their backyard, and there's a fire in it, and they get the exact amount that they needed to pay off their credit card from the insurance company. And they're like, well, that kind of sucks that we got the barn burned down, but they're like, we didn't need a lot what was in there anyway.
That is why when you want to manifest, you have to do every detail. I shouldn't say you have to.
Well, no, because you don't know how it's going to come.
Well, I know, but yeah.
You could try to do every detail, but you really don't know what the universe is going to do to work it out for you.
I want to throw something out there because, again, I'm practicing, right? Which means we're learning as we go.
Yeah.
And this part of acting as if, when you're manifesting and you're feeling everything around obtaining what you're trying to manifest, if you do that, I should say successfully, very well, then when you're done with that manifesting meditation, you're going to feel in your heart like you had it, you got it. Mm-hmm. And then when you truly feel that way, and all of you know that feeling when you win something, and that feeling of, oh, I got it, or you get the phone call for the job opportunity and you're like, yes, I got it, that rush. I truly have felt that after a manifesting meditation. And when you truly feel that, I would suggest you could probably care less whether it happens or not, because you've already felt the feeling. And that's what's so cool about it, and really what's required. If you can truly feel that way, like you got what you wanted without even having it, Well, what is that? That's true abundance. That's true wholeness, because you don't need it anymore. And that's what's so funny about this process. You know, when I first started Dr. Joe's work, I was like, whoa, I got the secret. The world is my oyster. And what's funny now is I've changed a lot.
You don't need all that.
I don't need it all anymore.
Yeah.
And the things that I'm actually trying to manifest now are really quite different than what I would have done in the very beginning of this journey. And so I think that's so cool. Let's go back to the whiteboard. And I just want to point out that at the bottom of this chart, that's 3D, that's matter, that's the densest form of energy, right? Energy that has slowed down enough to become a solid, something that we can tangibly touch in our 3D world. And as you move up to about middle of the chart, that's where he always writes no one, no place, nowhere, no time. And I don't want to say you can't manifest anywhere below that, but I think it's a lot longer.
Yeah, it's like once you get to where he shows, the line shows right here in the heart center. So it's like once you get to that heart center, I think that's where it's key, because you're feeling it. So that's where most of the manifestation happens, is here and up. And when you get it here, it's instantly. Okay, so I've had a lot of people ask, they want to hear the Dr. Joe bread story. So,
well, before you jump into that story,
go ahead,
let me finish the whiteboard.
Sure,
so,
go ahead.
And I think I didn't have this realization until about the third or fourth week long that I attended, where he draws the little man on the side and how all the frequencies correspond with all the energy centers. And you're right, the no one, nowhere, no place, which is in the middle, is equal to the heart center. And at the very top, where it's flatline, is probably number 8.
I think it's 8, maybe.
Right,
yeah.
because that's
source.
out up. That's source, and that's everyone, everything, every time type situation. And the reason I wanted to make sure we talked about that particular thing before you talk about the bread story is because I don't want to get to the punchline, but that's part of the story.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
That's where people will heal in their meditations, is they get right there to source, and they do become. And if you've ever watched my testimony, I became everyone, everything, every time, whatever at once, and I was able to manifest.
Can I tell the story?
Okay, so you can. Now, obviously, this isn't probably going to be as good as Dr. Joe tells it, but yeah,
and he doesn't tell it every event either.
No, he doesn't. He's got a couple of stories, but I think the bread, like he's got the rose story, the bread story, and the mass story. But the bread story, it blew my mind the first time I heard it. Go ahead.
Well, feel free to interrupt if I'm missing something. But when I heard the story the first time, I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me, really?" And everybody was talking about it. No, that's not true. That's not true. And I remember talking to one of the volunteers, and she's like, well, Kyle, I have never heard Dr. Joe tell, lies before, and so, it has to be true. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. So anyway, the way I remember him telling the story is he was pulling his travel trailer or something and was at a park, and he just went out into
I think
trees or something.
I don't know if it was the travel trailer, but I just know that he spent like most of the day meditating until basically dark, I think.
And he said he could just tell he was trying to get into the present moment, and he spent so much time doing that he was touching source. He was that everywhere, everything, every time. And he could sense that the sun was going down, and so he decided to go back to his travel trailer. I do remember that.
Okay. I don't remember.
And he said he could picture. He said as he was walking back, he could picture the bottle of wine that he wanted to drink, and he could picture that he had
bread.
Cheese. He said he had cheese.
He had bread, and he was like, I was thinking about that bread that's on top of the fridge. I wonder if it's any good.
And he thought a different kind of bread would be better.
Yeah, he's like, a different kind of bread would be better. Go ahead.
And as he was thinking that, bread fell out of the sky.
Yeah, the specific kind of bread that he was thinking of fell from the sky, and then he looked down. Go ahead if you want to continue.
That's all I remember.
Okay, well, and then he looked down, and he picked it up, and he kind of looked around like, is somebody playing a joke on me? Is somebody throw this out? And he was like, what the heck? And so he said he just dusted it off and walked home and enjoyed it. And I know the first time we heard that story, we're like, really?
That pushed my limits.
Yeah, it was like, no, that's not possible. But the more and more we've gotten into doing this work, we're like,
anything is possible.
If you are right there, he wasn't even in the middle of his meditation. This was after. He was just still so connected that he thought it and it happened in that instant because he was at that flat line up there at the top.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I do want to say there was a quote in here I wanted to, not a quote, just a part of here I wanted to read. And it says, even though a clear desire has emanated from you as a result of the contrast you have considered, you often, rather than giving your attention purely to the desire itself, focus back on the contrasting situation that gave birth to the desire. And in doing so, your vibration is more about the reason you have launched the desire than it is about the desire itself. So this is where I think everybody struggles, because what it's saying is that, so they go on to give an example of, you have a broken car and you're like, oh, this is so frustrating, I wish I had a good car. And then you're like, oh wow, and you start dreaming about this wonderful, beautiful new car, and you can imagine it, and you're like, oh, that's so awesome, it's going to happen. And then you go around and you're like, oh, this stupid crappy car, I don't want this car, why do I have to have this car? And right there, you've focused again on what caused the desire, instead of just being like, oh, well, this car will get me by until I get my new one. You've got to think like you already have it. Mm-hmm. You know it's going to happen, you already have it. Don't bring yourself back down. That's like with healing. Oh, I really want to heal. I can see myself healed and everything. And then you're like, dang it, stupid pains. Why are these pains? Why can't I just be gone? You know, it's just, you bring yourself back down. And so that brings you down, and it brings you further away from that manifestation. But if you can feel it and you're just like, it's okay that I'm feeling these pains. They're going to be gone soon. You just got to change your attitude and your mindset about what it is you're trying to manifest, and that'll get you.
It's all about vibration. You know, when you start focusing on the reasons, that lowers your vibration, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I always keep like a mantra in my head is walk as if, act as if. And if you can really master that, then I believe it'll happen right away. Mm-hmm. And also, we talked about, you know, I just want to repeat, when you're in the manifestation meditation, if you actually feel like you got it and you come out of that meditation feeling whole and happy, then truly just forget about it. You had the experience, you enjoyed it, you felt all the feelings of it. What else do you really need? And then if you truly just forget about it and move on, I feel like that would kind of protect you, if you will.
It will,
but your vibration lowering.
But you don't want to think about doubting it or think about those reasons, like sometimes you're trying to manifest it to begin with. Just recently, I bought a manifestation journal where you can just do a regular journal.
The 369.
The 369 journal. Yeah. There's a lot of them out there. The one that I bought, I really, really like, because it has you go through and describe it and write down the emotions that you want to feel. So as I'm writing down what I want to manifest, I'm picturing it in my mind. And when I'm thinking of the emotions of if I received it, like thankful, grateful, excited, happy, whatever I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. And then you write it down 3 times, 6 times, 9 times throughout the day. And I think what that does is it helps embed it in your head. You're saying it, and you need to write like, I am healed, or I have that new job. Not, I'm going to get that new job. I'm going to get healed.
You have I am affirmation.
I am, that it's already happened. Mm-hmm. You have to talk about it in that way.
Well, scientifically, they say every time you write a word, you repeat it almost 10 times in your head. So if you're doing it 3, 6, and 9, that's a lot.
It is. And then I'm going to put a link below. I just watched this man. A way he journals. You don't have to do it just like him, but he does a journal like if he has something he wants to manifest, or a synchronicity or something that came across. He writes those down and he reflects back on. And this, I think, is really important. Some of you guys are trying to manifest that brand new house, that brand new job, that spouse, your healing. And those are big things. And you usually have something negative holding you back. Start with something small. He talked about your friend Josh talked about the mini manifestations.
Micro manifestations.
That's right, micro manifestations. Start with something small. He went to a cafe one time and he wanted something free. That's all he told himself, is he wanted something free. And so in order to get that something free, he was sitting there, he's like, why is everybody else getting their food and I'm not? All of a sudden the waiter comes out and he's like, I'm sorry, your food's taking a long time. Here, have a free drink. So he got something free. So work on something small and see how that can work first before you work on those big things. And even if you can't do those small things, don't just give up and just say, I'm not good at it. Because remember what we said about the law of attraction. You tell yourself, I'm not good at it. You're not good at it.
That's something I told you about recently, where when I start my meditation, I just have these little affirmations I do.
The intentions, yeah.
And I say, I am a master. Mm-hmm. And this started when I was in Cartagena. For whatever reason, it just popped in my head about halfway through the event to do this, and it was wonderful. I'd say, I am abundant, I am whole, I am a master, and it just kind of set the tone for the whole meditation. And I do think it's really important to say this. There are no limits. We are the only ones that impose a limit. So I like the micro manifestations, but I do not want to set that impression out there that it's a requirement, that you have to start small and work your way up. You may be just that good and boom, there you go. I've tried, we've had some pretty cool things happen.
Synchronicities even, just from our vibration and maybe just energies we're sending out, like traffic all of a sudden clearing when we're in a hurry to get somewhere. We're not getting pissed off.
Time seeming to slow down, that's happened. And if you're living your life walking as if, and you're trying, the walking meditations, and you're just, I always like to say what Dr. Joe says, when you get this and this working together, he's like, watch out. Things are just going to start happening. And I don't really know all around why it is that way. I'd like to think it's because we're just kind of manifesting machines at that point, right? Like whatever our hearts are desiring, our hearts are pure,
and our minds are thinking it.
And our minds are in unison, in balance, coherence. And it just kind of happens. So like when you're driving and you're trying to get to that appointment and you're like, I'm going to be late. Well, that kind of sends it out there and whoop, the road's part for you.
Well, and I don't know if you're negative, like, I'm going to be late, or just like, traffic's not working out for me. I wish it would, but, and then it does. Because I remember that happened to me. It was like right after I got back from an event. It was like I was in the fast lane and I was running late to bring the kids to school. And then all of a sudden, like, I didn't have to step on my brakes once. It was just like every car I came up to just moved over. Like, they just knew, okay, she's coming, we need to move over. It's so cool.
That is cool. Well, you have anything else you want to share?
I don't know. I know a lot of you are going to ask, which meditation should I do to manifest? How do I really manifest? I don't know. All I can tell you is just what we've shared here. And then, like, get books. There's tons of books about manifesting. I know, like, Deepak Chopra and, Wayne Dyer and, like, a bunch of those other people have a bunch of books out there. Everybody's got their own concept, but it's all kind of the same stuff we just talked about with the law of attraction and feeling it and imagining it and living as if.
Let me share my experience then on that. I think I just popped in my head. I think it's the right thing because I was really stuck. In the beginning, I was really, really stuck. My analytical mind was like, okay, I need to have A plus B equals C when it comes to the meditations, like, okay, I need to go to the hopper and pick out this particular meditation to do this. And you've been a really big help to me in that. It's like, you don't need that. It's just whatever you feel. So in the beginning, I was doing synchronizing your energies to the mystical and to abundance, just like on repeat over and over every day, because I really wanted to get this manifesting down. And it wasn't until after Cartagena that I was like, you know what, I probably need to really, somehow I got keened in on why the blessing of the energy centers are so important. And so I really started to focus in on that. And I guess it was just me and my spiritual journey. I had to come to that awakening that the blessings of the energy center meditations are very vital, and it gets our energy centers all in line. And so that's why that's why I'm focusing in more on that. And as far as which meditation to do, it's whatever you feel in the moment. And I guess you could say what's required is just that you get to source. So if you can get to source with earplugs in silence, and that's all it takes, that's all you need. If you can get to source while you're driving behind the steering wheel in your car with your eyes open, wouldn't recommend it, but I'm being extreme here.
No, but that's true. With the law of attraction, you can truly, truly feel that thing, and it'll come to you. Like the traffic moving out, that you're not connected to source, but you're so, I don't know, you're not down in those negative energies, I guess is what you're saying. And then you just, I don't know, somehow synchronicities are being close to source, and it works, I guess.
But I do think blessing of the energy centers is so important for manifesting because it gets all your energy centers in line, which then creates that magnetic field around your body, which then allows for the better communication out to source and the better magnetic effect to
It
attract it back.
takes those lower energies and brings them up.
Yeah.
Because people that have a hard time opening their hearts, I think it's because there's a lot of stuck energy down here, and you need to move that up, and once that energy moves up, it can help open the heart. And some people might say that the pineal gland meditation, oh, you can only manifest that. I had never hit my pineal gland, and I had manifested health, healing. So it was just I set an intention right before my meditation, and I somehow reached source. I guess I just desired it so much in my heart right before I did that meditation that it happened. And then in the meditation, don't be thinking about it. Okay, when am I going to hit source? Am I going to feel this great healing? Don't look for it in your meditation. Don't look for it outside your meditation. And that's the hard part, is just letting go and not looking for it too. So.
Well, with that, we'd like to say we love you guys and happy manifesting.
Yes.
We'll see you next time.